letter that came to each of us, saying, "Have been accepted for admission to Ithaca College." It was signed by a dean. Later on, we would learn more of just what a dean was. We went in a real thing in the woods south of Ithaca. At this college-owned camp, the accent was on fun and relaxation. The program was all planned for us. It gave us a chance to meet some of the faculty, too. And it was good to meet them first as people rather than as instructors. We came then to the administration building. Those old steps have since felt our feet many times when the wisteria was in bloom and when snow covered those vines. Some of us were in the School of Music, one of the oldest music teacher training institutions in the country. More public school music teachers in New York State are graduates of Ithaca College than any other school. We remember the first few sessions of individual instruction, how we grew to appreciate being able to ask questions and to learn privately. We played in a string choir, chamber music, and learned to feel the joy of making good music. Those of us whose main interest was music were particularly pleased if we made the Ithaca College mixed chorus, or the choir, or the band, or orchestra. As in other areas of professional study, there were hours and hours of rehearsals under the direction of an exacting conductor. But the performances were always worth it. The Ithaca College School of Music sends its band and choir on tour each year to give performing students extra experience with a wide variety of audiences and to provide enjoyable music for larger and larger audiences of people in the eastern states. We learned also to teach music, partly by going to a nearby school, where we discovered what teaching is really like. All of us practiced teaching as well as making music. 8 weeks in the public schools, away from college, on our own, and yet not completely alone. There was always a supervising teacher to point out the good and the bad in our work. I remember well the New York State School Music Association spring festivals. The school buses came from miles around, bringing some 3,000 high school students to the college to perform in competition. They performed individually and in groups, choirs, choruses, orchestras, bands, ensembles. These were big days for these high school students, and they were big days for us, too. The excitement was high, and the weather was perfect. Of course, there were more serious times, too. Inside, in the bacteriology laboratory, those of us who were majoring in physiotherapy discovered the wonder of life under a microscope. We worked long and hard, preparing for a life of giving help and comfort to those not so fortunate. Some of our work was done here. It is the reconstruction home in Ithaca, where patients recover from polio. Much of the recovery work is done by physiotherapy students in the hospitals, working under the constant supervision of doctors and physiotherapists. This is long work, but rewarding. This 5-year-old boy will get around under his own power again after treatments that include this exercise. We were helping victims of a still dangerous disease, some who are young and some who are not so young. This man is 70, the victim of a stroke. We learned the value of a word of encouragement to kindergartner and corporation president alike. Under the watchful eye of trained specialists, we learned the skills of restoring life and motion to once useless limbs. After weeks of treatments like these, indoors, the younger children go outdoors to the playground for a kind of exercise that's more fun. exercise that luckier children take for granted. Exercise of a more strenuous nature was to be found in one of the Ithaca College gyms, where students in the School of Health and Physical Education drill in learning and teaching the special skills of sports, both indoor sports and outdoor sports. Team sports played an important role in our school life. Most of us knew some fundamentals when we came to college. Now, we would learn all the ins and outs of the game. Most of the emphasis here was placed on learning the skills of teaching the sport. The experience we got playing on college teams brought these points home to us as no book learning could. What was mentioned earlier about teachers of music in New York State is also true of teachers of physical education. More New York State physical education teachers were graduated from Ithaca College than from any other school. Ithaca College baseball teams have piled up an impressive college baseball record. We haven't had a losing team since anyone can remember. The players learn that to win is fun, but they also learn that to play the game well, whether or not you win, is even more fun. These students learn how to play ball. They also learn how to teach others to play. They master the skills of many different kinds of games, but they really shine when it comes to the national pastime. Not long ago, in the NCAA playoffs, one of our pitchers struck out 17 men in one game. They learn under the guidance that comes from 25 years of coaching experience. When this batter swings, he thinks he has a solid single. But the Bomber defense is as sharp as its offense, and his effort goes for naught as he bounces out short to first. At every home game, one could see the blue and gold banner of the Ithaca College radio station, and behind it, a remote broadcast crew doing the play-by-play for Ithaca townspeople and students. This building houses one of the most complete radio and television installations of its kind in the world. And those of us who majored in television and radio found we could get practical experience from the ground up. 4 years of it. Starting in radio, we learned about equipment. We learned the magical sign language of broadcasting. And there were lots of chances to take part in radio drama. Starting from scratch with an idea for a program, we learned the techniques of writing, announcing, directing. The college FM radio station is served by United Press International. And when you get right down to it, our station wasn't much different from the average commercial station where we would get our first job in radio. There was a student staff with a manager, a program director, a news department, sports and copy department, set up along the lines of commercial stations. We did all of the work ourselves, but there was always the help and guidance of one of the television radio faculty members to bail us out when we got in a jam or to help set things up. Ithaca College had one of the first radio departments in the country, and now has one of the finest television studios in the world for learning this newest of the communication arts. This is the first student-operated television studio in the country producing regularly scheduled television programs. Our audience, some 15,000 Ithaca townspeople on the community cable system. Larger than a good many commercial studios, WICB-TV is equipped with the latest RCA cameras and controls, a real break for budding TV workers. We learned a good deal about what goes on in a television studio. And at the same time, we were initiated into the mysteries of the goings-on behind the scenes. we found that it took many hours of planning and preparation to get a program ready for the cameras. There were graphics to be prepared, sets had to be built, props found, scripts written, film edited. And there were the rehearsals. Hours and hours of rehearsing. We found you just don't turn the lights on and go to work. Problems in lighting were worked out on paper and on the light scaffold. Lighting a set and dressing it properly could be worked out in advance with the use of models such as this one that can be used in a classroom. But then there was never any substitute for the real thing. And there were many days on which we thanked our stars the Ithaca College television studios were air-conditioned. For up there, in the light grid, some 18 feet above the studio floor, it was nice weather for lifting the big Klieg lights. And now, with the student director in the hot seat, we were on the air. Each person had his job, and it took teamwork and concentration. We were proud of the programs we produced. In a single week, we brought before our cameras and microphones qualified townspeople and professors to discuss major issues. We drew from a wealth of musical talent in the college community. There were dramatic programs and programs of community interest. There was poetry and dancing, sports and instructional programs. And we were right there in the middle of it all, each program depending on our developing skills and judgment. There was all the excitement of the professional telecasting for which we were preparing. And though we had been speaking the English language all our lives, or so we thought, we found we had been doing so somewhat imperfectly. There was coursework offered in speech. Some of us were speech majors, with the choice of preparing for a career as a teacher of speech and drama, or of going deep into the area of speech therapy and correction. We had the opportunity of doing some clinical work in Ithaca's Cerebral Palsy Clinic and in the Ithaca Public Schools. We improved our own speaking skills through the use of recording equipment that helped us to recognize our difficulties so that we might begin to correct them. Of course, it wasn't all work and study. Winters, we were mostly indoors, but when spring came, the flowers weren't the only things that blossomed out. We had a big spring weekend every year with a float parade, dances and picnics, and a carnival atmosphere prevailing. There were competitions among the fraternities and sororities for the best float, and a king and a queen for the weekend were crowned. And there wasn't a worry to be found anywhere, except about the weather, and even that turned out as though we had ordered it. Other times, when we did have a worry on our minds, we found we didn't have to carry it alone. If there was a problem of some kind, studies, or money, or romance, we knew we could always find sympathy and good advice in the office of one of the student deans, the doors of which were always open to us. Right from the start, it was good to know there was someone whose only concern was that we would adjust well to college life. Someone who understood how we felt about things and could draw from experience an answer that was right a surprising amount of the time. Actually, adjusting to life at Ithaca College wasn't really much of a problem. The girls all lived in dormitories that weren't very much like dormitories at all. They were warm and friendly, and more like home than we thought they might be. The biggest one housed 36 girls. And after a while, after living together, they felt pretty much like sisters. Life in the dorms was always filled with lots of good fellowship. There was always a lot to tell at the end of the day. Some new idea gleaned from classes or reading, a chance meeting with a young man in the snack bar, plans for an upcoming date or an upcoming examination. The girls lived 2 and 3 to a room, which meant some measure of privacy and the opportunity to learn the delicate art of getting along with others. They had companionship and a special kind of social life one finds at a small college. Here are the beginnings of memories we somehow know we will cherish all our lives. The girls were allowed to decorate their rooms pretty much as they would at home. But the souvenirs on the walls looked down on no bed of roses. There was work to do. There were assignments in all courses. And we found that to maintain a good average, it was necessary to put in several hours a day with the friends we wanted to know best, our books. And with a little peace and quiet and a good set of class notes, progress could be made. There were always the books, the textbooks in the arts and sciences, the natural sciences, biology and chemistry, the social sciences, history and government, psychology, the humanities. There were lectures that gave life and meaning to our studies of world problems and family problems and their solutions. Here, we probed deep within the confines of our course discipline, whether it was American civilization, economics, English, business management, accounting, citizenship education, or general science. Some of us chose to major in foreign languages, some in history, some in philosophy, mathematics. A majority of our math majors are going on to leading graduate institutions, having received fellowships or assistantships. They're going into industry or the insurance field. History students are going on to law school or to prepare at a graduate school for a career in the Foreign Service and diplomacy. Our fellow graduates in science are completing courses in pre-med and pre-dent. Some will teach biology or general science. The emphasis over the years has been on what goes on inside the four walls of the classroom and the laboratory. Like a good many colleges located in a downtown situation, Ithaca College hasn't room for many frills. The accent is on course content and first-class instruction and equipment. Spread through the heart of Ithaca, our college is close to the city and its people. And yet, here in the laboratory, we are 1,000,000 miles away, following the antics of a paramecium. The science students weren't the only ones who spent time in a laboratory. You've seen the lab work of students in music, television and radio, physiotherapy, speech and physical education. Have a look now at the Modern Language Laboratory. Here, all students taking languages and those majoring in languages who want to teach or who are interested in the Foreign Service or journalism have a chance to learn from instructors who teach their native tongues. Having the lesson on tape so you can play it over and over again makes it a lot easier when you go to record your own efforts in the language. Each student uses a separate tape recorder for drill in developing the sounds of the language. The language laboratory is divided into booths like this with earphones for private listening. And when it came to written work, we could always get individual help from the course instructor or our academic advisor. The books we studied were not only textbooks. Here in the library were the reference works, the periodicals, the great novels and poetry. Here was a place to chase an elusive fact with the help of trained specialists in library science. Or a place to browse and relax with a light novel. Here was the laboratory of the humanities. Here we could search, discover, compare, explore in the world of letters. A familiar sight around town was the big Ithaca College bus, carrying members of the band, the orchestra, or the choir on their concert tours, or the athletic teams to their out-of-town ball games. We used our fledgling word skills to publish a literary magazine in which appeared the first efforts of budding writers. We tried our hand at journalism, taking our turn on the staff of the student newspaper, the Ithacan, as reporters and editors, rewrite men, and copy boys. And we learned that galley doesn't always mean the kitchen of a ship. There was always lots going on around the college, and you could always read all about it in the Ithacan. Among our favorite goings-on were the plays. Modern plays, period plays, musicals, Shakespeare. Ithaca College has one of the oldest drama schools in the country. Its stage productions are well known for professional excellence throughout the East. Our theater is run just like any other legitimate professional theater. Students learn it all, from backstage to the box office, from Agamemnon to Ibsen. Their classroom studies are supplemented with practical experience in their laboratory, the theater. They learn how to handle a hammer and a paintbrush. And when the set is built, they figure out the lighting and the sound. They learn new definitions for words like fly, flat, and spot. And when they've learned the backstage skills of scene design, stage carpentry, and makeup, they learn about theater management and something of public relations, too, by taking a turn at the box office. And those of us who were drama majors, of course, learned acting. We learned under the skilled supervision of professionals. We learned how to stand and sit. We learned how to move and speak on stage. And when we went before a paying audience, we were confident and ready. We did Death of a Salesman, a show that played to capacity houses. And at the end of each performance, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Fine plays like the tragic story of Willy Loman gave us a chance to play our very best. Drama at Ithaca College is not an extracurricular activity, as you might guess. It's serious business to the professional drama student and a valuable outlet for students in other major fields. Each year, there was produced on the Ithaca College stage a hit musical play: Brigadoon, Carousel, South Pacific, The King and I, Oklahoma. These productions are the combined work of the Department of Drama and the School of Music. Drama faculty directed the action. The student orchestra had a faculty conductor. Highlight of the academic year, our musicals run for 9 performances. This year, when we did The King and I, the box office opened 2 weeks before the run, and the tickets were all sold on the first day before the box office closed. Each year, in the fall, seniors in the drama department take a play on the road, a tour of high schools in the East. And so our professional drama people get some road experience as well. All drama students take courses in TV acting, so their preparation will be complete. And suddenly, Oklahoma is a memory, packed with all the memories of fraternity picnics, club outings, visits to Ithaca's places of real beauty and serenity. We'll remember the falls and the parks, and the fun we had on those outings, the friendships we made. We've faced a lot together as students of Ithaca College, all the rich and varied experiences of learning, preparing for our work in the world. And now, we face the proudest moment of all. Now it's over. The classes, the games, the work, the fun. There'll be no more classes, no more assignments, no more homework. But then there'll be no more co-ed dates, no more parties and picnics and dances. Now, we're looking ahead to tomorrow, a new job, and perhaps a family. It's been fun looking back, but looking ahead is even more exciting. There are smiles today. We are a happy group. The family's in for the big day, and we guess they are even more proud than we are. Well, that's our story. Maybe your story is somewhat like it. Or perhaps the Ithaca College story will be your story.